Hi, folks. Bob Mannery here. You're listening to A2D Radio, real sports talk radio for the fans, by the fans, no agenda. These guys are the best in the business. Hashtag it. No notes.
Welcome in, everybody, to the A2D Radio. As you can tell right now, I'm losing my voice. Left it all out there on the field today myself. Can't say that for the Philadelphia Eagles, but what I can tell you is that we're joined by a special guest tonight, the legendary, the great former Eagle, Ron Jaworski, the owner of pretty much, I would say, every golf course in South Jersey for the most part.
Just a few. Hey, Tom, Greg, Steve, great to be with you guys, man. I wish the outcome today would have been a little bit better, but you know what? We'll deal with it. There's 14 to go. We'll see how it plays out.
Exactly.
Yeah, Ron, you know, the one thing I've talked about ever we all have really is the resiliency of this football team. And after week one, I wasn't concerned. I was concerned the way they lost, but I wasn't concerned because I just know Doug Peterson by now. I know the resilient group of leaders of the vets they have on this football team. We've seen it. So we've seen it for years. And, you know, to come in and lose a game like they did today, knowing that is a little worrisome. So now I'm like, you know, people talk about jumping off the cliff. I'm walking towards it now. I would ask you that same question. Are you walking towards the cliff right now, or are you just, hey, long season, go get it right?
I'm a long way from the cliff, Tom, but I am concerned, and I think as Eagle fans, we have to be concerned. You know, last week against Washington, it was an abysmal performance. You can't lose to the Washington football team. You can't lose that game, particularly after a 17-0 lead. But you kind of say, okay, it's over with. You move on. We got the Rams coming in. You know, they're a team going through a little bit of transition right now. They had a big win against Dallas last week, but, you know, we'll get them in Philly. We'll get our record to 1-1. Well, the Eagles didn't play well enough today to win that football game. Now they're 0-2, and I expect them to be 3-1 or 3-0 when I made my preseason, you know, picks and where they're going to be at, you know, looking at Cincinnati next week. They could be 1-2 or even 0-3. So that is concerning to me. But I always then, after I take my fan hat off and put my former player's hat on, I say, you know what? There's nothing we can do about Washington. There's nothing we can do about the Rams. The only thing now we got to concern ourselves with is us, the guys in the locker room. There'll be a lot of noise out there. There'll be a lot of people on our butts. It's Philadelphia. You deal with it. You have to deal with it. So the only thing right now the players must do is come together as a team and worry right now about the Cincinnati Bengals because there ain't a thing they can do about Washington or L.A.
Oh, it's so true. It's so true. I mean, and it's what this football team's done for the last 3 years. It's what we know they do. You know, when their backs are up against the wall, they play their best football. I don't know why. I think a lot of that has to do with the leadership of the head coach and Doug Peterson, but they just do. And that's been their MO. So until they don't, I'm going to still believe, even though I'm slightly walking there. But
no, I agree with you. I mean, you know, they win the Super Bowl in 17, and, you know, they love that underdog role. Us against the world. They hunker down. We're all in this as a team. Who cares what the outside world thinks, you know? And that's what players have to do. It's unfortunate it takes some adversity to bring a team unified like that. But right now, the mentality they must have, we're the Philadelphia Eagles. We've got these 53 guys in this room and our 47 coaches. I don't know, got a whole bunch of coaches. I know that. But we're the only thing that matters right now. Because right now, guys, people are on our butts. They think we stink. They think we suck. Now we got to turn this around. The only guys that can do it are those in the locker room right now.
So even though it's been only, you know, we're only 2 weeks in, have you seen anything that tells you that this season can still be salvaged and this is a team that can go on a run?
Well, I think today the biggest thing I saw was the offensive line came together with Lane coming back. The continuity up front was there. Going into this game, I said, you know, a 99 Aaron Donald, Leonard Floyd, their acquisition from the Bears, former first-round pick, are good pass rushers. And I thought this would be a game where the Eagles' offensive line would have to step up. But after last week, I was a little bit concerned. It helps to have Lane Johnson back. I thought the offensive line was outstanding today. I thought the running game was very good. And I think the protection of Carson, for the most part, was very good. But if I come away with a concern, where the hell was the defensive line? This is the highest paid defensive line in the National Football League. They got to Jared Goff one time, one insignificant sack in the game. The Rams ran the football up and down the field. It would have been over 200 yards if he wasn't taking knees at the end of the game. So clearly, the highest paid defensive line stole their paycheck this week, and that's the guys that I'm going to hold accountable this week.
I can't disagree with that at all. You have Fletcher Cox, getting over $100 million. You bring Javion Hargrove in. I think he was sealed off on that big run that kind of really blew this thing open for the Rams. So I'm definitely with you there on that defensive line. It probably holds more weight on this loss than you could probably put on the offense.
Yeah, and one thing, and I applaud Howie for how he's built this team, Howie Roseman through the years. He's always felt the key component in pro football are offensive and defensive lines. And the Eagles have been very good in that area. Hey, although I'm on the D line right now, for the most part, they've been good throughout this Doug Peterson era. But, sooner or later, guys get old too. Guys get old. I don't think Fletcher's been very active in the last – I know last week he was getting pushed around by that Washington offensive line. Today he did make some plays, but as a whole, this defensive line with all that money, all those number one pedigrees they have, did not make enough plays to help the Eagles win.
No, not at all. Not at all. And I always say every week we do players of the game. Obviously, everybody does. Yeah. And we'll say defense. And every week I'll say, well, I want to hear Fletcher Cox name 1,000,000 times. That's not realistic, but I want to hear his name 1,000,000 times. I want him that kind of impact on the game. And you're right. I mean, 191 yards on the ground. That's not this football team. That's not that's been their MO for years. They stop the run and we go out and we go out and upgrade our cornerback position. And then we get burnt, obviously, by the tight end big time today. And my question to you is, what would you do if you're the sitting GM? You're sitting in for Howie Roseman. You see some of the needs. Is there anything you think is even realistic to pull off? And, what's the major need for this football team to moving forward?
Well, there's not a whole lot you can do right now. We're 2 games in the season. Teams are starting to identify themselves with what they can do, what they can't do, what their identity is, what they feel they can do best. The Eagles right now, I think, lack an identity overall on this football team. What do they want to do offensively? Do they want to be Patrick Mahomes, the Kansas City Chiefs, and slinging all over the place? Well, they can't do that. I think they would like to be that with all the speedy wide receivers they have and the abundance of solid tight ends, but that's not their identity. I like the identity they had to actually balance offense, run the football, throw the football. What are they on defense? Is this a blitzing team? Is it a zone coverage team? Is it a man-to-man coverage team? I just don't see an identity of what they want to be. But it's hard when you got guys like Avonte Maddox. And, oh, by the way, when I went to the tape last week against Washington, he really struggled. He really struggled in that game. And I said, the guy that I know Sean McVay is going to attack is going to be Avonte Maddox. And he did. They had a lot of completions where he was trailing and chasing. So the good thing is I still sit here at home and I got this large screen TV behind me. And in about 3 hours, I'll have the download of the Eagles coaches tape today against the Rams. And I look at every player on every play. And, when I see routes run, the ball isn't thrown to the guy. And like was last week in Washington, Avonte was still getting beat. They weren't throwing the ball there. So we discount that. He didn't get beat because we didn't see it as a fan. But he did not play well last week, did not have a good game today. So I'm a little concerned now about this secondary, who they've been addressing now for like 4 years, and the loss of, hey, by the way, the loss of Malcolm Jenkins. No one's talked a lot about that, guys. That is a significant loss. Not only his play in the box, Mills is a solid player, but it's new to him. He's not a physical guy. Malcolm was a smart guy. He could defend the run. He made a lot of tackles. He could get the players in the right position. So, we need to talk more about the loss of Malcolm Jenkins and how it's impacting the secondary.
Well, they still don't have a leader on defense. You don't know if it's Mills. You don't know if it's Roddy. You see both of them kind of running back around. Like it looks like they're both kind of trying to switch around and who's kind of calling the plays back there and running it. I don't know. It does look disorganized since Malcolm hasn't been there these first 2 games. Yeah,
I totally agree. And I think, Jim Schwartz is going to have to answer some questions to the media, someday this week. They look ill-prepared for the Rams attack. The Rams came out with misdirection, bootlegs, and it was like, whoa, what are they doing? Well, you know what the Rams do. This is what they do. And we guys get lost in coverage. We're having blown coverages. They're peeking in the backfield when they're in man coverage, and guys just running free. So it just looked like a disorganized defensive unit today. And that's got to change if they think they can turn this around.
Yeah, I mean, you looked at that first half, and you're right, Ron. They were doing all this misdirection, moving Jared Goff, but the one focus was the middle of the field, and the middle of the field seemed to be so wide open. Is there anything that can be done from a linebacker standpoint? I know we don't have big names, and I know traditionally we don't value that position very well, even going back to Andy. But sooner or later, I mean, that was glaring that every play, for the most part, was up the middle, at least vertically.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. It seemed as you watched the linebackers, there was a lot of chasing going on. They were a step behind everybody, and clearly, and you're absolutely right. Again, you said the Eagles don't have a high priority for linebackers. Well, maybe they should change their thinking a little bit. Maybe they start thinking they need a stud linebacker that can make some plays, that has speed and quickness, and they're not getting caught looking in the backfield. They're not getting caught with that oh crap play that they got beat for a touchdown on today. That teams take advantage of linebackers that look in the backfield, and that's exactly what they did on that play.
Yeah, I mean, they've been devaluing the linebacker in this city for a while. I've been clamoring for a while. I know a lot of the guys here on A2D Radio has been asking for a linebacker, and not just these guys, these project guys, these third, fourth, fifth round guys that you try to plug in here to your system because they work in a way, or they're athletic, or they have other traits. They're not these guys. You need somebody to kind of really take the reins from the linebacker core. And you really haven't had it, and even Jordan Hicks is kind of was a little bit of an overachiever. We really haven't had one since Trot. We haven't had that linebacker.
You're right. Who was the last impact linebacker this team has had? Probably Jeremiah Trotter. That was a decade ago. No one has come in and filled the shoes of that role. And clearly, the Eagles only have so much money to spend, just like the other 31 teams. You only have so many dollars to spend. So when they sit up there in the front office and they figure out what they're going to do, they figure out who they want to pay and what's important to their football team. Obviously, they felt defensive line was critical and paramount. And I'm not going to disagree with them. But you know what? If you're going to pay all those guys, they better play up to their pay. And they didn't do it today.
Absolutely.
Dax, let me switch it to Carson for a second. And, obviously everybody knows you've been a successful quarterback in this city. So you understand the pressure, the scrutiny, everything that comes with playing quarterback in the city of Philadelphia. Donovan, I mean, anybody that's played quarterback here in the city and has been successful knows that it comes with a lot of scrutiny. And now I don't put this Carson in this situation, but I know a lot of people do. Like, do you think the pressure from what happened, it doesn't happen to every quarterback where you get hurt, you're on a run, and then next thing you know, and Nick Foles comes in and wins the Super Bowl, and now that's going to be looked at for the rest of your career and scrutinized, and everything's got to be, well, look at Nick. And people still talk about it. We're talking about 3 years later, and we're still having the same conversation. Not us, but the majority of, I don't want to say idiots, still talk about, oh, I love to have Foles back. I love that Foles back. Yeah. And the most of us, like, we listen, we got to move on. And I got to believe he hears that a little bit. We're human. We're all human beings. Some people think it's like they're playing Madden, but these are real people. So do you think there's any effect on just, I don't know, just the pressure at all?
Of course there is. It's Philadelphia, and you're human, and everyone likes to be liked, and you've got to develop a thick skin. And I've spoken to Carson. I've spoken to him through the years. I have great admiration for him. I think he's very talented, but I don't know what's in his head. I don't know what he's thinking. But you got to get over it. No matter what's going on, you got to get over it. The only play you control is the next play. The only game you control is the next game. What happened in Washington, what happened today means absolutely zero right now. You got to get your mind right. You got to get your head right. You got to walk in that locker room tomorrow, and you got to be the most uplifting guy in that locker room. Guys, hey, that's history. We're looking ahead to the Bengals. We're going to get on this roll. They've done it in the past. Carson had a run last year, 4 games down the stretch with receivers that they picked up off the JV. And they went to the playoffs. He played great down the stretch. So whatever approach he took back then, that's the approach he has to have. And I've got a little theory of my own, guys. As I saw Doug, how he's constructed his coaching staff. They got so many coaches on this staff. I don't know, and I'm just being hypothetical here. We know Doug calls the plays. But he's got all these other guys. He brought in Marty Morningwig this year, another quarterback guru. And I know what happens to quarterbacks. They come out of this room, they're hearing one thing. They go in this room, they're hearing another thing. They go in this room, they're hearing another thing. They're on the sideline, they're hearing another thing. They're in practice, they're getting another thing. By the time it's Sunday, you're short-wired, man, because everyone is telling you something different. And I won't name names because I've dealt with quarterbacks in the past when I was doing Monday Night Football and spending time with the Aaron Rodgers of the world and the Brett Favres of the world and these private meetings with them. And they would bitch to me about, I got 3 coaches in my ear. Every time I come off the field, I don't know what I should be thinking. And to a certain degree, I'm thinking that way. Like, all these coaches now, let Carson be Carson. Let's minimize all these people in his ear, tell them what to do. And I'm not saying that's happening, guys. I'm being hypothetical here. When I see all these damn coaches with him all the time, who's he listening to? Who's the guy that is giving him information that he really believes in? That's the guy he should respect the most. And
you would hope it would be his head coach who's calling the plays.
I totally agree with that. But here's what happens in today's NFL. I love Doug. He loves calling the plays. This is not about him, but he's also the head coach. He's got to watch when the defense is on the field. He's got to watch every situation. They're not in his ear. They're not up there with the iPad and all this and all these stats there. Everyone's got all these stat guys in the course of the game and analysts when to go for it and analytics what to do. So he can't just go over to Carson and say, "Hey, here's what we're gonna do. Here's what I want. Here, let's take a look at this," because he's got too many responsibilities. So I think that's something we got to watch as this season plays out.
Yeah, I would also like to get him rolled out even more. Like, you see Mahomes moving and shaking, and that's his ability. I mean, that's what was going to win him an MVP in 2017 was his ability to move in the pocket, move outside the pocket, make throws on the run. I mean, one of the best balls I've seen in a long time was the throw to Miles in Washington last year, on the run, on the move, and to loosen him up a little bit because maybe there is some tightness. Maybe there is some nerves, to have to be perfect. Right, because they went out and got you some weapons. They used a first-round pick on a weapon. Your offensive line up front was a little banged up, so you're nervous. You might be a little worried there. You're thinking about that. And I just think the best thing for him is to let him just be him. We talked about Donovan for years. Just let Donovan be Donovan. Let him move. Let him run. If he takes the hits, he takes the hits, but let him be himself.
So you sound like a fan now. I like structure. I like structure. And I think there's a time and a place for improvisation. You want Carson to be Carson. You want him in the hospital trying to run for a touchdown. He gets knocked out by Jadeveon Clowney because he's diving for a first down on a screenplay that was diagnosed. I think availability is just as important as ability. You got to be available to your team and your teammates week in and week out. Hey, play within structure, but if the opportunity presents itself to make a play, you make the play. But I've always believed the longevity of a quarterback is critical. And the last thing you want to do is in week 12 of the season, guy's been playing great football, and he dives for first down, and all of a sudden he's out for the rest of the year. We're lucky Nick Foles was there to come in and do the job, but I think availability is just as important as ability.
Yeah, and I meant more like the rollouts. I didn't mean like.
You know what? Oh, by the way, I should say I agree with that. I think design movement in today's NFL is absolutely critical. I would agree with that part of it.
Yeah, I didn't mean like Lamar Jackson or that. Just get him moving.
Kyler Murray, Lamar Jackson. These are freaks, man. Deshaun Watson. These guys are running backs with the football. I don't think Carson can extend the play, but that's not who he is.
No, you're right. You're right. Yep, you're right. So what I mean, if we had to ask you right now, what do you have this team finishing at record-wise?
Well, I still think they're Dallas and Philly are the two top teams in the NFC East right now. You're looking at Dallas at 1-1 and everyone else 0-2. Washington's 1-1 right now. So I'm a big believer, and I've said this every year, not only in this pandemic year and coronavirus year and no fans and no training camp and no exhibition games, blah, 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 blah. I always said I hate to make predictions until they play 4 games, and then they know who you are, what type of team you're going to be. We haven't seen the rookies hardly at all on a lot of these teams. And hey, it's nice to see Rager making some plays. But I hate to make a prediction based on 1 or even 2 games. Let's see how this team plays after 4 games. I promise I'll come back on the show and give you my true perspective of the Eagles.
Hey, respect it. I always say in quarters too. So, but I had to ask you. I mean, the people would kill me. But they would kill me. I'll be getting taken out at the 8:30 show coming up later. They won't even listen to me. But Ron, I know you had to run it like 7:50, and we appreciate you giving us the time. We can't thank you enough. And take a few minutes and just tell everybody. Obviously, most people know what you're up to, but anybody that doesn't, let them know.
Yeah, no. Hey, thank you very much. So I do my 6 ABC, which will be aired tonight on 6 ABC. I just did those. I do a hit on 6 ABC on Thursday. I have my show every Wednesday night. Which is just a blast. I mean, I had Freddie Mitchell last week and Brian Baldinger 2 weeks ago, and that's all we talk about is just football, man. Drill down football, and I have my foundation, the Jaws Use Playbook, which I appreciate you giving me a chance to plug. We've raised over $5 million for at-risk youth in our community. So, of all the things that I do, that's probably the one thing I'm most proud of is the commitment through great support of my golf tournament, my cigar party with Mike Ditka. We raise money. And we're just a conduit to give it back to the kids that we can support. So, hey, I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to talk to you guys. Keep up the good work that you guys are doing in the community, coaching baseball and coaching the kids and teaching them how to do things the right way. I appreciate what you guys are doing. So I look forward to doing this again. We'll do it maybe after week 4.
Us too, Ron. We can't thank you enough.
Thanks, Ron.
And we'll talk soon. Go Eagles.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Yeah,
we go. Get it, Ron.
Everybody, that was Ron Jaworski joining us. We'll call it the A2D interview series. We were rolling that a lot through the quarantine season, but I mean a lot of things that I think we all feel, right? And a lot of us I feel are a little bit unknown on what this football team is. I mean, we talk about 191 yards let up on the ground today. I mean, I'm talking about this team when we're coming into it, top 5, top 10 defense. Well,
right.
Well, I look like the biggest idiot around, and it might be so. It might be so. I mean, I came in talking Carson Wentz, top 10 quarterback. Maybe I'm blind. Maybe the ability isn't as good as I wanted to, as I thought it would be. But I'll tell you what would make it better. I say with every athlete in this city. The Sixers take Twitter away from Joel Embiid this year, and it looked like he was lethargic the whole year, right? After the Towns fight. After the Towns fight, wasn't the same guy, right? They took it away from him. Donovan, what'd they do? They tried to make him something he wasn't, and still was good, right? But could have even been better. Well, if we're going to tell a guy to stay inside the pocket, and I'm not saying anybody's telling him that, is that live up to his skill set? Is that the preferred thing for his skill set? His skill set is always going to be a playmaker. This is why we drafted him number 2, right? Was to be a playmaker. He's a playmaker at the quarterback position. And I don't mean running for 50 yards. I mean moving around. In 2017, he was doing it all. He was doing it all. If he has to run for 10 yards, he would, but it wasn't all the time. It wasn't overdone. It's like the same Mahomes does. It's nothing crazy, but he was able to move in the pocket. They rolled him out more. I don't see that. I see more of like, oh, we're going to make him, I don't want to say a statue, but he's got to go through every read. And sometimes if you don't like something, you got to be allowed to just roll, make something out of nothing. And I'm not saying run for it. I mean, roll out of the pocket. You got speed all over the football field. When quarterbacks move, things break down. So did you draft him to be Uncle Pocket? Or did you draft him to be a playmaker that he is, that we saw from 2016 and 2017? Now, granted, he's going to make a play. He gets hurt. He could have scored, never even got hurt. So I'm saying if you live scared at the quarterback position, as front office, etc., you're not going to win what you want to win. You're not going to win what you want to win. That's all. We're not talking about design runs here. We're talking about design rollouts. Everything in design. Design misdirections, right? Everything designed. You have a quarterback that can move. And speed. I would be doing so many misdirections, your head would spin. You wouldn't know which way I was going. And I'm not even talking about Baltimore misdirection. I'm talking about the throw the ball. I'd be RPOing, fake handoff RPOing, then freaking fake handoff to a guy come around. I would make your head move around.
We saw today with Jared Goff. He starts off 13 for 13 because what they do, they moved the pocket, they rolled him out, they got him on the move, and they made the throws easier for him. and they made the defense have to react to what they think is coming versus what is reality coming.
And we can't even use the excuse of the offensive line today. That like Aaron Donald was more or less null and void today. I think he had a tackle and a tip ball. At some point you have to think did the preseason not having it really affect because it normally takes Carson a while to get things going as it is anyways, and it kind of feels like his mechanics are off, and it's really. You're seeing some of these balls where he normally hits guys and it sails in the eye. He's starting to look like Donovan, where it's either in the dirt or 20 yards past him.
I'll tell you what it is. Nobody wants to hear it in this city. People are going to tell me I'm making excuses, and at 8:30 tonight, you're going to hear a lot of this. Man, I mean, you look around the damn league and see guys that have number one wideouts. I mean. Can we stop acting like quarterbacks are in 2020 are supposed to do it all themselves? Can we stop having that thought process? That's a disgrace of a thought process, okay? I mean, Deshaun Watson looks like a guy right now. Just looks like a guy without his boy, huh? Not the same, right? So does Deshaun Watson stink? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. He just doesn't have his one anymore, okay? Look around the damn league. Kyler Murray goes and gets his one, all right? Arizona said, we're going to take care of our quarterback. We're going to take care of him. How's that working out? 2-0. Good start. Right. Looks even better.
And they almost look untouchable right now.
Yeah. So I'm just going around the league. I mean, Aaron Rodgers had Devontae Adams. He's had number ones the whole time. Legit number ones. Okay.
And we literally have 3 twos on our roster.
I don't even know if they're twos.
If that.
I mean, listen.
I mean, I'm not gonna say Jalen can't become that, but he's a rookie, right? So he's not a number one. And just based off of physicality, Rise, he just doesn't stand out as that, 6'3", 6'4", just monster, physical freak, right? He could become that, but even when Deshaun was healthy in here, he was never really truly, a number one, just because he was so frail, and he could really, his best attribute was his speed.
Yeah, listen, I'll say one more thing, and we can wrap it and get ready for 8:30. Obviously, because we're going to have this whole conversation again and even deeper. And there'll be a lot of yelling and screaming. My voice is already gone, and it's going to go even more because I got a lot to get off my chest about this football team too. And Ron talked about a lot of it already. Touched on a lot of it. I am not happy with this defensive front. I mean, Fletcher. I'm pissed. I'm pissed at this front. And I expected to come in and dominate today.
Where's the missing sign? Because Fletcher Cox has been missing from this defense the last 2 seasons. He has not made an impact.
No. And I'll tell you this is the one thing. The biggest asset we have for Carson Wentz is getting Alshon back. People don't want to hear it. People don't want to hear it. He's the closest thing to a number one.
Listen, they drafted J.J. Arcega-Whiteside in the second round because they needed a guy like him. He's his body type. When Alshon is in this offense, Carson just works so much better with him.
I'm delusional because our defense guy. If you go look at it again. Every time. So Carson fumbled the football on the opening drive. I'm just asking you if I'm delusional. Did that not happen? Okay. So Miles gets a free pass. Fine. Miles had a good game. I love Miles, but it's not a free pass. You can't put the ball on the turf.
No, he came even on that just because of the touchdown. He didn't atone for nothing. He just broke even on that.
Yeah, so I mean, that happens. Then you go down, you get 3. Okay, so you sort of answer it back with points. Okay, then boom, 14-3. Okay,
I'm definitely with you that this offense is missing Alshon Jeffrey. I don't care what anyone says. He's that big guy that all right. If Alshon Jeffrey's on this team, that interception doesn't happen. No matter if Carson missed on that throw or not. Alshon would at least made the play enough to either break it up or made the play.
Listen, yeah, and I just think that there's the chemistry with his wideouts isn't fully there. I think the time Alshon does come back, hopefully they're still treading enough water, but it's early still for it to be an impact. But I just don't see that pure one. It's a lot of guys that can do the same thing. When you have a lot of guys who can do the same thing, or a couple that can do nothing, right? Which is equal to the same thing, then you got nothing. So everybody else can tell me how he's $100 million quarterback and it's all on him. Fine. Okay. If that's what you believe. In 2020's NFL, that's not how I think about it. Unless you're freaking Tom Brady. Unless you're Tom Brady, shut up with having, twos on your roster, right? Just shut up about it. Like everybody needs more than just a tight end, right? Who's in his own head anyway. So everybody needs weapons on the outside to win in this league, to respect your tight ends. And who's that one guy that's going to go up for a football in a tough spot? Who is that guy on this football team, guys? Because when your quarterback trusts you the most, is he trusts guys that will go up and get footballs at times, right? Or just know what your wide receiver's thinking. So balls that are
it is Dallas Goedert right now. At least that played the last 2 weeks because it looks like it's more those type balls have been going to Dallas more than Zach.
No, I know that. I'm just saying on the outside, there's nothing. There's nothing on the outside that's going to go up and get a football.
I don't think he trusts any of them to make them type plays. And
you got to trust. Yeah, you got to trust the route running too. Like who runs great routes out there? I mean, somebody riddle me this because the gadget I told y'all had a fine little game today. Okay, good for him. Okay, fine little game. All right, but who's the route runner out there? Who is it? Nobody. You have route runners all over this draft. I mean, CeeDee Lamb, I don't even like. He went over 100 today. I don't even like him. Went over 100. Went right before you. Jerry Jeudy. I think he had like the same production, but he averaged like 15 and a half yards a catch today. So probably a little bit more production, I guess. But as a pure route runner. You're telling me this kid right now is a pure route runner. He needs to work on that. It's not a shot at the kid. He can work on that and get better. I see explosiveness, right? I'm just saying that you don't have that guy. Deshaun Jackson is a similar guy. You know what I mean? Who else is left? Realistically. Greg Ward. We all like Greg a little bit. Cool. I mean, JJ.
He didn't see the field a whole lot today. Again, I mean, it goes back to, you're absolutely right. Like, we're clamoring for Alshon just because that's the only move you can make right now is get him back. There's nothing else, is gonna happen.
Yeah, and people will say I'm crazy for thinking for wanting Alshon back, but what I see on the outside, I need it. I just need it, and it's not an excuse for this guy, man. I'm trying to win football games, and last year when he had both of them for the minute, they complemented each other. We talked about we need the complement this year. We didn't have it. Okay, we took J-Jaw over DK Metcalf. You know what I mean? This is what you've done for your quarterback. You've tried to upgrade it. You've used big-time assets to upgrade it in a first and second round pick over the last 2 years.
Well, he failed at this point with JJ at this point in time because he hasn't been able to fill any type of productivity, anything at this point in time. Yeah, you go get Rager, and like you said, he's nice. He's a speed guy, but he's not that possession guy that he needs, that he can make those 15, 20-yard plays down the field where he can have a play where he can go up and go get a ball.
Yeah, like Jerry Jeudy's not a big guy, but it doesn't matter because he's
going to make a play.
His routes are just going to leave your jock on the ground, and that's what I need. I need somebody who can win one-on-one across the middle. I need somebody who can do a little bit of everything when it comes to route running. Now, Jalen Reagor can become that. There's no reason he can't, but right now he's not, and that's fine. But I mean, you told me if I could have gave up my first and second and got up at the 10 hypothetically, right, and had my choice of wide receiver, would you have not have taken that? Like, do you not tell me that whoever you consider the best wide receiver in this draft wouldn't make his life a little bit easier? Now, Jalen may be better to beat all of them. I don't know. I don't got a crystal ball, but I would have taken Jerry, and I think right there, that's a win for your quarterback. But again, until that's a moot point anymore, right? All the point is that what do you do from here? You hope this guy's back by week 4. You just gotta hope. Or 5, because that's your best hope for this offense. Now, defensively, I don't know, guys. We'll talk about it. I'll talk about it at 8:30, but right now, it's bleak. It's disgusting. Their last 6 quarters have been atrocious. And everybody wants to tell me how they're a number 1 ranked defense last week. Grow up. They couldn't get off the damn field to the Washington Redskins. You all missed a game. Some people just miss games. I watched the Redskins just feel like they would not get off the field in the 4th quarter. Like that's what I feel like I watched. But people are going to tell me, well, they were tired, Tom. They were tired this week. They're on the field too much. The frick are you talking about? Well, you're on the field because you can't get off the field. like some of it's on you to get off the damn field. We talk about it. Win on third downs. Nope. But you know what I mean? Turnovers. Nope.
Probably the biggest thing, the difference from here to last year is they're not converting. Where they have been in years past, I think the last 2 weeks, they're well below 50% in it, or if not way worse. So that's the one thing I think moving forward will probably help this team the most is getting better on third, making conversions.
Yeah. All right. Last thing, JD White. So you can't wait for Alshon to come back so I can stop making excuses. I'm not making excuses. He didn't play well. I'm telling you, you name me a quarterback, JD. You name me one of the elite quarterbacks in this league right now that doesn't have a legit number one wide receiver. And I'll wait. Brother. I'll fucking sit here and I'll be back at 8:30. And at 8:30, you come back with that answer for me. All right? You come back with it. Simple. All right?
No one said they're saying Alshon Jeffrey's the greatest Eagles wide receiver. We're just sitting there saying they work well together. They play well together. They have a connection. They have a chemistry. You can sit there, don't like anything you want about Alshon Jeffrey. You don't know anything about Carson Wentz. They play well together. They're productive together. The end.
All right, everybody's coming at me now. Coming at Jabrones because it's now my fault now. But for just telling some truth. Now you come back at 8:30. I'm gonna love to see everybody. Lord, come back, brother. I couldn't agree more with what you just said. We've yelled and screamed about it. But thanks, boys, for making a quick trip. We thank Ron Jaworski for taking the time out to jump on with us. Obviously, go back and listen to this interview and every show on every podcast forum there is. Like, subscribe, follow, and obviously we go live weekly, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Twitch. We're there. Subscribe there as well. Giddy up. Let's go. Tom Arnone, Greg Moakovic, Steve Rochelle. Agree, disagree. Coming up 8:30, 8:40, right around there. Some of us will take a little piss break and maybe gargle some salt water. See if it can help with the, a little in here. I left it out there today. I left it out there this weekend more than the Eagles did. We'll see you at around 8:30, fam. Stay tuned. Thanks, guys.